In the fall of 1993, a young 3-year-old Togolese girl named Farida Naburema had a bright future. She was too young to realize it, but thanks to her industrious, frugal parents, she would have the means to pursue a meaningful education and career. But when Farida's family woke up on the morning of January 12, 1994, everything had changed. Overnight, her parents lost half of their savings, not due to theft, bank robbery, or company bankruptcy, but a currency devaluation imposed by a foreign power more than 4,500 kilometers away. The previous evening, French officials and IMF bureaucrats met in Dakar to discuss the fate of the CFA franc. For years, the currency used by citizens of Togo and other West and Central African nations had been pegged to the French franc at a rate of 1 to 50. But when the late-night meeting concluded, it was 1 to 100. The economic fates of tens of millions of people had been decided by French leaders, with the complicity of pro-French rulers of countries such as Togo and Ivory Coast. This is French monetary colonialism, an exploitative system of monetary control which has outlasted political colonialism and allowed France to retain control over the economies of 15 African countries and subsidize the French way of life. Despite decades of uprisings, the system stands to this day, but is now being challenged by a new form of resistance: open source code. At the height of its imperialism, the French colonial empire stretched over 11.5 million square kilometers. After World War II, the French had fought tooth and nail to keep their colonial possessions, but eventually were forced to give them up. However, the benefits of the resources and labor of French colonies in West and Central Africa were too rich. Paris devised a scheme to have its cake and eat it too, ending political colonialism while orchestrating monetary colonialism. This was the birth of the CFA franc. The French understand that by controlling the colonial franc currency, also known as the CFA franc, it increases its power against its former colonies and allows it to siphon the wealth back to Paris in numerous ways.
Hi, and thank you to the Human Rights Foundation as well as Farida for this really awesome video. I'm sure you guys had no idea, right? But this is how hundreds of millions of us live under. Anyway, so this was just an example of a much bigger problem in Africa right now, which is lack of freedom. You see, our banking and finance sectors are very, very heavily regulated by our states. And so, for example, what does it look like? You know, to get your funds out, do you know that I do have friends who can't pay their tuitions for their children who happen to be studying abroad? I have a friend of mine who actually got visited by the equivalency of the FBI in our country because he dared to send 3 times $50 out of the country. And they were asking, what is it for? Who are you sending it to? What's going on? Right? And meanwhile, you have most of our banking and financial systems are basically under the rule of government oligopoles. And by the way, English is only my 4th language, so some of my words are hard. So you know what I mean by oligopolies, right? So government, you know, a few who are just getting everything and it's under government rule. So anyway, so most of our banks are like that, which means they don't care. They don't give a crap about the regular citizen. They don't. Right now, we have so many of our people, our citizens, in many African nations who do not have access to banking for many various reasons that it would be too long for me to go into here. But for the few of us who have access to the banking system, well, right now, I'm still waiting to find out what happened to my $1,200 that I was trying to get through the ATMs. ATM machine says, oh, we dispense your money, so I get the receipt, but no money. It literally ate my money. And no one is there that I can go to cry and ask, where's my money? So then people come and they complain to me and they say, oh, Bitcoin is risky. Really? Do you want to have that ATM machine? Are you kidding me? And then on top of everything else, especially outside of the franc CFA zone, we have to deal with wild hyperinflation. So think, for example, the most notorious case was in Zimbabwe, where we had a $100 trillion note worth at some point 40 cents. 40 cents. Imagine that madness. So of course, when we talk about that, it gets lost on you all of a sudden when I talk about, you know, the inflation in Sudan that went from 100% to 400%. People are like, who's counting? And then, oh, Nigerians, you guys are crying because you get a 20%, you know, annual inflation. Really? So you're starting to get the madness that we have to deal with. And so you're wondering then, oh, how come Africa is the region in the world with the highest adoption for crypto in general? That's why. That's why. We lack access to functioning, you know, financial and banking systems, right? So I and others are working on providing greater access to functioning and functional financial and banking systems through what we call the startup cities. These are basically economic zones that happen to have their own law and governance. And in places like that, the goal is to basically provide local entrepreneurs with access to world-class business environment, as well as, in the case of crypto entrepreneurs, a legal framework that's stable, on which they can count, so that they can focus on their work of doing of creating innovation within the crypto world, as well as just development. That's what we're doing. So for Africa to become prosperous, like anyone else, we're going to need to have access to reliable, affordable, and cheap, affordable financial systems. The way that would happen is we have to create these legal frameworks. So that is why I'm asking you to come join us at the Africa Bitcoin Conference happening in Ghana in 2023, later this year, where basically we have this amazing community of people who are working on creating the ecosystem on the financial side. So come join us there. And what I like to tell people is, you see, here in America, and especially here, I'm going to point to the tech entrepreneurs in crypto in Silicon Valley. Yes, I'm looking at you, and sometimes those of you in Austin as well. In this part of the world, we are so busy arguing about the need for crypto, because let's face it, we are frankly spoiled in places like this. When you have PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, you name it, you tend to forget, you know, that, hey, who cares? Whereas we have leapfrogged all of those arguments. The pain is the signal for us. The pain of sending money back and forth is the signal. So we have no time to waste on all the noise that you guys, frankly, are spending way too much time on. So for those of you who are tired of wasting your energy in this way, I say, come, join us. There are 1 billion Black Africans in Africa right now who are out there to say that African Black lives matter. So this is a bright new day that's building up for us, and I'm here to invite you guys all to join us, and it's going to be win-win, and most importantly, super, super fun. Thank you.